thank you, Juan, for chatting with me this way, and for your lovely book, um, which I
There it is.
I'm
There
gonna
it is.
I took it to AWP, so Bury My Heart Under the Martian Sky. And at AWP, people kept coming up and asking me about the book cover and saying that it reminded them of other like kind of Mexican, like it reminded them of like research books and like other Mexican books that they had seen, and I really appreciated that. So I think the art we ended up with is really lovely. This cover art is um, by Colega Soberanes, who's a Mexican
Okay.
artist. And then Juan let me add the little chupacabra dog. It's like hard to see, but like when you zoom in online, you can see the little guy who I wanted to add as like the little border because it was just a little hint at the chupacabra. um, but one I remember I remember first you read must have been some excerpt of this back at I think at Armadillo Con, and I was like, please send me a chapbook.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
was.
Yeah, and that was a few years ago because we're slow. But I remember really loving it then, and I still really love it. There's a lot of really fun things about the book that I really appreciate. I mean, you've published so many books at this point, of speculative poetry, but this sort of like structure of this one, the haiku grounds, like it's just there's just so many things I love about it. I think one of the things that lately I've been thinking about too in terms of it is like the little structures that you use, the little symbols that you add. So I want to talk about that as we get to the end of the book. And I'm not, like it's so challenging to introduce your work because like your bio is just
Don't worry about it.
you've published so many speculative poetry books and on so many different topics, but also books about your life and like memoir and yeah, like nonfiction, as you mentioned, you have had such a rich life and history, and so I really appreciate getting to talk with you about your work. And then we will also be having a reading on Thursday in Corpus Christi that we'll get to talk a little bit more and hear some other Gulf Coast folks read, which I'm very excited about. Um, but anyway, one, I love it. I am so glad about your book. It so many people loved. I mean, I think we sold way more than I anticipated at AWP, and I'm gonna have to send you your copies individual, like separately, because otherwise I will not have enough to bring on Thursday because we
Oh,
had
okay.
that many. We sold that many. Like it was popular at AWP,
Seriously? Wow,
which is
that's
great.
good.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna let you read to us a little bit, and then we will like circle back when you're done reading and chat a little bit more and you know, talk about your book more. So anyway, you read now.
Okay. Um, so you said 15 minutes. I kind of picked 13 of these, and the first one. Speaking of planets, the first one is when we talk about who this planet belonged to. First was the cats and the dogs. The question is who came to this planet and who was actually here. So we can get into Egyptology there with dogs and cats, and I kind of touched on it a little bit. But this is the current war between dogs and cats, and of course the balance, which is man, who is not doing such a great job as it is. So, and this is a set of the three haiku crowns. What dogs know, what dogs know about cats. Cats are finicky. Find someone that doesn't know, someone from this world. At the master's door, gazing to see who it is, greeting like old friends. Master talks to them more than he talks to his kind. Odd for humans. They ask for special. The master always complies, ice box full of it. Routine sacrifice, he will give and give again what he calls a meal. The cats stay happy, so they return when hungry, at least once a week. As for the special, his name was Bob or something. Master disliked them. Cats are destroyers. Find something they haven't touched since the beginning. We've leaned into peace, break from perpetual war, calm with watchful eyes. The face of the Sphinx hides a forgotten story, a war nearly won. My kind almost gone, if not for our new masters. Balanced the power. His face now the Sphinx, yet with no true hold on cats, just long arrangements. Although man now rules, cats will surely persevere in long standing peace. Even if man fails, master will be kept alive. He feeds them, mankind. Cats are liquidy. Find a place they can't get in. You will be lying. Dogs know the secret, that which baffles master's kind. Not really magic. Cats are not from here. Forgotten place among stars. Wish they would return. Cats know that we know. They will kill to keep it hid. Ask master for me. Those that come weekly to eat master's sacrifice report to others. Liquid are thoughts too, for I have spoken this truth. They will find me out. Someday they will come. I will be those cold pieces, casualty of war. And that's the end of that, the perpetual war between cats and dogs, and how Master can't figure it out. Master Man, of course. This one is on the Chupacabra, and I should have written more of these to put in here, but I've written Chupacabras in sonnet form. And if I sit here and think about the book more, I guess there would be a little bit of regret saying that maybe I should have translated them all the way, well, to include them as well. El Monstruo de México, the monster of Mexico. State of Coahuila. Goat pens of Piedras Negras, old farm in the woods. A herdsman still lives, if in fact that is living, scared of his shadow. Sometimes when he's drunk, you might hear him scream out loud, a fear from his past. Then, in a whisper, as if to catch his last breath, you might hear him speak of a deep, dark night that he relives every day while wasting away. Fraction of the tale of the loss of his left eye, unlucky friends. So much more went wrong when hell came to men and goats, el Chupacabras. The next few haiku crown are on my other favorite subject, the mermaloids, the mermaids, and these are all in reference to them in one way or the other. This one's called The Other People. There are people there in the deepest part of blue, watching and waiting. For whom and for when, that still remains the unknown. They refuse to say, but they watch and wait as the people of the land go about their way. There are people there in the deepest part of blue, watching and waiting. They say that humans once came from the vast oceans, but he soon forgot. Now on a fast track, consuming the world he knows, looming combustion. There are people there in the deepest part of blue, watching and waiting. This one's called This Blue World. Mermaloid greetings. When man arrived on this world, leaving theirs behind, happy to be saved, that was mankind's beginning, life on makeshift boats. Yet it was not long before his true intention. Man was made for war. It is within him, this dreadful lust for bloodshed, this space transient. The sea people fled deeper into the oceans, cursing all mankind, salting the blue world, drying all that man can touch until he is no more, like he salts the world to rid our cousins, the snails, one day beg for water. This was called Me by the Sea. By the sea is me, stumped by a sweet siren's song. She perplexes me. By the sea is me, I have been warned of this, yet she perplexes me. By the sea is me, bewildered by her beauty. She perplexes me. By the sea is me, she beckons to come to her. She perplexes me. By the sea is me, falling to her blissful kiss. She perplexes me. By the sea is me, heavy her grip on my neck. She perplexes me, falling for the sea, hoping you remember this. She perplexes me. This one is called Mermaloids Lament, and this is actually about man, or Mermaloids becoming man. From oceans we came, when dry land was yet to be, when legs were fable. Then we crawled on out, evolving from fins to limbs, taking steps away before history, before the reed met the clay, when thoughts said it all. Then to quill and ink, to write salty tales of old, of time out of place, forgot our purpose. We, descendants from the drink, all near washed away. Now to screens and texts, far from the call of the deep, far from whence we were. War, we learned it well, cutting limbs away for peace, crawling back to sea. And this one, of course, is in the far future where man is now a myth. This is called Bone Necklace. Made a fine necklace from the mermaid bones I found where oceans once laid. Seemed to call to me. Maybe I imagined it. Either way was real. When I wear the bones, I smell the oceans that were under bluest skies. When I wear the bones, I swim through the old currents, coolness of the flow. When I wear the bones, I talk to all the sea life, whose names time forgot. When I wear the bones, I see all that flew above, listen to their splash. This made me wonder if man ever existed, left no bones behind. So those are all my mermaid poems. Now moving on to a reimagined Aztec world. This is called Mexico City, 2101 AD. And this one does have the Nahuatl number system, or the Mayan or the Aztec number system, as you call them, which is something I've been incorporated into my poetry. Mexico City, 2101 AD. This was originally actually 3 haiku, and I just went ahead and expanded it. Priest of the night sky, I waiting for the return upon pyramids. Slaughtering thousands, the best of all warriors, the highly esteemed. Leaving no tribe out, taking no chances with love, destined prophecy. Now, moving forward, purging a conqueror's seed, born for this purpose. Children of Cortés, massacred meal for mutants, fulfilling promises. Old sky feels different. Atmosphere bright blue with change, a welcome strangeness. Spotted near Saturn, the feathered-serpent starship, Aztec, God of old. And then I'm gonna read the title poem, and people actually talked to me about the ending on this, and thought it would be a more positive, or the ending a more positive note. But in fact, it just means that there's a time for man, and then there's a time for everything else. This is called "Bury My Heart Under the Martian Sky." Ages have passed by, or has it just been minutes? What does it matter? Irrelevant time at the end of a long line, all the clans are gone. At the beginning, we saw plentiful water through the long, long glass, left with plenty hope, a fresh world now, drifting dirt, new ancestral lands. Generations since, survival rates plummeted. I buried them all. It took us too long to finally get here from there just to see us die. Alone I remain, one voice, one near silent drum. Who will bury me? And then the last one is the one that probably Holly remembers the best. Um, this is called Godzilla at the Powwow. So hopefully I don't mess up the computer a little bit. I didn't want to use the actual drum because I probably would mess it up. So hey, 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 hey. Drum beat, drum beat, drum. A deep rhythmic rumbling sound, music from the heart. He shows up sometimes after messing up a place to cool himself off. Drum beat, drum beat, drum. Back since the astral monster, dancing for the wind, dancing for his life, dancing for it is sacred, dancing for prayer. Drum beat, drum beat, drum. He must be part Indian, puts him in a trance. Powwows aren't the same without a kaiju stomp dance, peyote puff club. Drum beat, drum. Reminds him of something gone. He never says what. Hey, 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 hey. All right. Those are about the ones I read today.
This one always gives me goosebumps. It's so
So
good. One,
I'm glad you like it.
it's such a great book. And like, I guess the first question I'm going to ask you is just about the structure of the poems, so the haiku crowns. Um, I have always sort of like loosely enjoyed haiku as a casual reader. And I did not realize how people view haiku as a rigid structure, and like that really surprised me. And it's been surprising reading one or two, people seem very like not, they're like, they're almost angry.
Say it.
Yeah, they're like
No, they're
angry at
angry.
your
They're,
book. And
they're
I'm like,
angry. Yeah, they're
I
angry.
don't understand this. Like, I am literally kerflummoxed by it because I don't get it. And like I understand that haiku is this like beautiful form that dates back centuries, but you could say the same of any form, right? Like you could say the sonnet, if someone's not writing a perfect Shakespearean sonnet, then they're not doing the sonnet right or whatever. But the haiku seems
Mm.
particularly like, so anyway, I want to know, like, how did you come to the form? Why did you choose to do it the way you did it, etc.
Well, obviously, I'm always looking for different ways to do things, and I always get this thing that I've been listening to people that are quote unquote been doing it for a while, and no, this is not the way you do it. This is the way you do it. And I'm like, but there's a better way. I'm thinking this is the way I want to do it. But I do know that it pisses people off when I mess with the haiku in the way that I do it. If they're, I guess it almost feels like I'm messing with their livelihood, because in some cases, I guess it is, right. They're English instructors. And it's like, um, but I thought, well, you know what? Haiku doesn't have to be rigid. Doesn't have to be just that. And what if I told a story, you know, with it? I guess when I first started doing that, I was noticing people kind of like, that's a haiku. It's like, well, those are a set of 7 haiku that I call a haiku crown. They didn't realize that what I was reading was actually haiku, because I wanted to stylize that way, and I wanted to elaborate on not just, because haiku is just a one and done type of thing. Um, the way I saw it, right, it's just this one scene, but instead of added more scenes or more things to it, and did that. And of course, there's the renga. The renga, of course, it's a haiku and a couplet, haiku couplet. And I actually did that with a terrible poem. Everybody was like, Why the hell did you write that? La Santa Madre Tamalera. And that actually was a renga. It was a story told using the syllables, using the form. But it was a long story about a mother that learned how to make tamales a different way and supported her family. Of course, the tamales were made out of human meat, but it's like some people were grossed out about it, and I got it. But it was just me having fun. And plus, got to make it into a comic book, so that was pretty good. But anyways, so and doing that, I realized that you can do more with the haiku or the haiku form in that way. And the other challenge was to add all the flavor you can to just one individual one. It's to me, I was in a way I was forming a novel, but in a very short form, because I was given as many details as I could, and you tell the story with 7 haiku. Um, so I was challenging myself to do that. And I said, well, everybody's doing this, that, and the other. Everybody does that, does this, and let me do this. So the first time, like I said, I would read them, and then when they ask me, so what type of poem is that? And when I tell them they're haiku, there's some haiku. I said those were haiku, and as you heard me read. So I found that fascinating. People were doing that, and then I would encounter those people that really got ticked off. I said, no, those are not haiku. Like, okay, why not? Why not? They got the form. I mean, and I try to give as details as I can. No, they're not all about season. Like that other guy called them these other different things. They're like haiku, but they're not haiku. He used those other words. But the fact that one way or another makes people passionate, and that's like, well, I think I'm doing something right. Either that it's the extremes, right? Either they like it or they hate it, but either way, I'm getting a reaction. So I said, well, I guess I'm doing something. Not that I intended to make them hate me or hate the poem, but I do realize that I don't know. It's kind of like, I guess you know, I don't know how to put it. I guess you're substituting the cheerleaders for the football team, and people don't like it. The cheerleaders are actually winning. So I don't know, something like that, right? So like,
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
mean, I don't quite understand it because I do feel like every sort of like classical structure has been deconstructed at this point, and
Mhm.
you're not doing, I mean, I love you. I think what you're doing is fantastic, but it's not like all that extraordinary to deconstruct a classical form, particularly in the framework of the larger conversation of like being Mexican American and
Mhm.
indigenous and writing about your culture and using a classical, like form to deconstruct. Like it's not, it's not like you invented this concept.
No, I didn't. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, remember when you first asked me, I says, because you told me, I said, well, maybe you can do this with the book. So, but I'm just having fun writing, right? I told you that I was just having fun writing, but apparently my fun, other people don't like my fun. But anyways, so
No, but yeah, like I feel like there is an anxiety when you go into writing something like that where
mm,
like the traditional person is going to be. So like I also had a book of short poems and I they weren't, I didn't intend them as like haiku. But like I didn't call them any form because I was like, they don't really have a form, but some of them could have been called like haiku in that sort of like realm. And I just like purposefully did not call them that because I was like, I don't want the haiku people coming after me. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I think you're doing something that is ancient, which is just taking a classical form and deconstructing it. Yeah.
So,
And it's
so now
beautiful.
the addition to that is translating them to Spanish. So that,
Yeah.
in fact, somebody asked me to translate La Santa Madre Tamalera. I mean, the title was in Spanish, but I didn't really do. I mean, there was a few Spanish words in it, but I didn't do that. And then I did, of course, the previous Chupacabra haiku that I had written individually,
Yeah.
translated that, but I haven't fully translated a whole crown. So I guess that would be the next step. And I was thinking about, just translating the crowns into Spanish as well to kind
Yeah.
of put it out there a little bit more. But
I
yeah,
love that idea.
I don't know what, I mean, some people need to get a life, I guess,
I
sometimes. But
know. Just move on,
so,
y'all. It's
yeah,
fine.
I mean, of course
Anyway,
I saw that.
my whole goal in life is like if we've made someone mad about poetry, then great. Because
Um,
like if you're making people passionate about books and poetry and stuff, then that's the goal, I think. I mean, I
yeah.
think so. Anyway, I love it.
But
The other, yeah, go on.
No, I was gonna say that the other way I see it too is like, you didn't like what but you read it, right? So I had those people that up in North Texas that had the other book that I done that was a Chicano poetry, Screw the Wall, that bought the book just to burn it. So, well, as long as you buy the book, I'm okay, right? Just buy the
Sure,
book.
that's fine by
You're
me.
supporting me one way or the other. Buy the book. You're gonna burn it. I get it. I'd rather you read it first, but it pissed you off somehow. I hope you read it. If
Yeah,
if that's what pissed you off. But that's the thing. So, well, that the other one commentator told me too when I posted that thing was, well, at least they read the book. Juan is like, well, yeah, I guess so. They read.
I guess so. Yeah, as long as you're reading the book, I'm fine with it. But yeah, no, it's just it's funny because you don't see that with like other forms as much, I guess. Maybe you do, and I just don't pay as much attention to it. But I was wondering if you could talk about the poems that have the uh what we would they're I guess we would say they're like they have like symbols in them that are you said part of
That's
the Aztec language.
yeah, that's the now what number system. One of the poems, I'm trying to remember which one. I actually name them off instead of put the actual thing. I'm trying to remember which one it was. Let me find it real quick. But oh, there it is. It's a place among the skies.
Mm,
So instead of putting the symbols, I actually just named it. A place among the skies. You have, of course, Atle, Se, Ome,
mm,
Ye, Nawi, Makuri, Chikwase, and that's 1 through 7. So I put that in there. I said, well, okay, what do those numbers mean, or what do those symbols mean? And that's what they are right there. That's the actual name in the Nahuatl language. But I like I said, I wanted to put the culture in the poetry itself too. Of course, and the other there's another poem that I wrote. I just made those symbols up. They were on the computer, so I used that the Spaceman's Lament.
yeah.
I just like I like this symbol. Let's see what happens. Just to see if I get a comments from people. But that was
I like
I
it.
haven't got anything yet. Nobody's asking about that. But the Aztec or slash Mayan number system, of course, the dot and the 2 dots is two, three
Hmm.
dots is three, and of course the long stick is five. It kind of reminded me because when I went to Saudi Arabia, I had to learn the number systems over there too, at least the
Hmm.
numbers, right, to make sure we can read the numbers on the mile marker or the kilometer markers over there and stuff. So I kind of was like, you know what, that'd be cool to use that instead of using the Roman numeral ones or that actual number 1 or 2, whatever. I would use something that remind people, hey, look, this got some culture to it. And that's what I did with most of the Mexican indigenous poems that I put in there, which I only read one Mexico City. Uh, but anyway, so I wanted to use that. I didn't see many people using it, so I always try to be I like to say I'm a vanguard of things, but I've seen some things that I've done that I thought I was the only one doing. Kind of like Akua said earlier. I was the only one doing that. So, I haven't seen it as much, and I wanted to do that to
I
incorporate
love
culture
it.
and then to get those questions and that.
Well, and like I love, okay, this is just my like subjective like interpretation, but like they do harken back to the Aztec numbering obviously, but also they're kind of like sci-fi. They're also like there's something weirdly like Morse code or
Mhm.
some sort of science fiction spaceship language to them about that I really love. Yeah.
But they were highly civilized, and regardless of what the history book says, that they found, uncivilized people, this, that, the other. When you look at, for example, when you look at pyramid schemes from the top, they look like, computer grids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Teotihuacan literally means where man became God, and it's like there's something about this intervention with sky people with the Aztecs, and I know that Ancient Aliens does a whole bunch of stuff in it, and people say, "Well, no, that's just a white man thing trying to find a reason how they made it," but there actually is stories of space people coming down and leading and talking to the people. So in one way, so you understand that you're trying to throw this kind of like this colonialism, racism into it, but in another way, it actually does exist. That these stories are there, and we had poets, many poets too, and I read their poetry as well. It's translated to Spanish and English, but it's in original Nahua. But uh, but yeah, I mean, it's that should give a feeling of high advanced civilization because that's what it was
Right,
until somebody said
exactly.
it wasn't.
Right. Yeah. I love that. Like I like how you pair it with the themes in the book also. Because like when I tell someone, okay, so this is a book by, a Mexican American author with an indigenous background, and it's also speculative, like science fiction. They're like, what? And then, but
But
like in a
it's
good
not
way. Yeah.
when you read the stories of indigenous people, not just from the people that I belong to, but up here in North America as well. The northern they have stories that are speculative. I mean, you
Right.
look about it. When do you have a talking rabbit, or a talking coyote or something, and why is it all of a sudden producing things that feels like magic, but there's some technology involved, I'm sure. The Hopi's got all kinds of star people in there in the mix,
Yeah.
and so does some of the Navajo. So there's already this. It's just all I'm doing is tapping into it. Really, is what
Right.
I'm doing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's awesome. Um and Akua, if you have any questions, feel free to like drop them and all, or you can ask them if you want. But yeah, like the other thing I think you do so well in your poetry is humor, right?
Yeah.
So you always have like the dogs and the cats or like which is just kind of inherently funny, right? Animals are funny. And yeah, like and there's a couple poems that like seem like they're gonna go one way and end up another way almost and it's they end up kind of humorous. So I was wondering if you could talk about like how you write a poem. Do you intend for it to be funny going in, or like does it just kind of end up that way? And how do you approach humor in your work?
Well, I don't always intend for it to be funny, but it turns out funny. When you look at my characteristics, and I do use the chupacabra for a lot of things, right? But when you start thinking about the chupacabra being the brother of the coyote, the trickster, the
Mhm.
jokester. So I do that on purpose, and I take that to heart. Not only that, but humor is probably the best way for me to tell somebody this is wrong. You should be doing it in a different way, which is I do with my Chicano poetry a whole lot.
Mhm.
Screw the wall, basically. Don't drop the
Yeah,
taco. Those things. You remember? I think you heard the don't drop. I was being humorous, but I'm telling you, hey, don't be stupid. This stuff is stupid,
sure.
right? But I use I don't intend it to be that way, but then I realized, what? This poem's probably better if I add this line to it, instead of being so serious. I've and you probably done it too. I've heard some very serious poets. Poets is like, and everybody's looking around, looking. It's like, what the hell? Why is he angry? I didn't want. Why is he angry? Like that. So I try to provide the humor to make people, be a little bit more comfortable, accepting the idea that some of the things we're doing are wrong and we should try doing it a different way. And I said, look, it's funny because you shouldn't be doing it. That's why it's funny. It's
Mm,
dumb. You shouldn't do that. But I'm telling you in my way, so you can accept it better. That maybe you can change it. So I've actually done that with a few what I call master poets. One of the poems that he didn't like because he didn't understand it, I guess, was "I see brown people." Now the movie. I you know
hmm.
I see dead people. Well, he said I
Right.
see brown people, but then I said why I saw brown people. Where they work, what they did, and at the end where they weren't. And he, I guess, understood that as an angry poem until he heard me read it. Then he had a rebuttal. He actually had a rebuttal before that. He read that. So I was like, dude, that's pretty serious. I wasn't trying to be angry with you. I'm just telling you, we do all these things. Where are we when we look at history in total? And then, of course, he wrote another rebuttal, apologized first, and wrote another rebuttal. And then he was good with me. But, that was my point, too. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago, too, already.
Mm.
But he was angry with me for a while. I didn't even know who that guy was at the time until he came. So you're the one that wrote that. Like, okay. So what do you think it means? Well, I don't like it, this, that, and the other. And then when I read it to him and he sat there and contemplated, like, oh, okay, I get it now. So is the humor part that he didn't really see until I showed it to him. But that's kind of what I do. I don't intend to do it, but it turns out that way. And it's just going to be, I'm just going to accept that that's what's going to happen.
No, I
But
mean,
now,
I think it's kind in a way that we probably don't deserve to make it to make the message, which is like actually devastating, like I was recently in visiting, I went to Big Bend National Park and they have a lot of signs up right now about the border wall. They're trying to build a wall
mm,
through the national park. And I thought about your work and how I do think that you're right, like a humor approach, like should you have to make it humorous to not, maybe not, but does it work? Yeah, like I think it draws people in a way that is kind and friendly, and I appreciate that. Um okay, here's a question, which is that can you talk about the mermaloids more? Where did you come up with that idea for the mermaloid?
the Mormoloids, um, well, I guess in one of the poems, I know I was thinking of the the famous evolution of man picture. When he starts out from the water and becomes a man, but then he realizes in that particular one he realizes that man is a warlike creature and he's becoming like man and he doesn't like it. So he wants to go back to the water. The only way to go back to water is to change the way he to de-evolve, and that would be not mind wise, but that would be of course removing limbs. And the other one was about the well, that was bone necklace. Mermaloid is that one. The bone necklace is basically saying that man annihilated himself, that he left no memory, no, not a memory, but no physical evidence of him because he wiped himself out. And people have asked me, so who's actually talking in that poem? Well, it's not a mermaid, but there's mermaid bones. While man was alive, mermaid was a myth. But yet at the
Mm,
end of the world, there are bones that show that mermaids existed, but where are the bones of man? He wiped himself out with nuclear weapons or whatever. But you know, La Sirena is always a lottery card for us. So Sirenas have always been there, and unfortunately, Sirenas don't wear a brassiere. So that was constantly when I was a kid, like Sirena. So, but the siren or the mermaid. But I wanted to use that because a lot of people were writing about. Okay, there was a time frame when a lot of people I was seeing a lot of unicorn and mermaid poems.
yeah.
I was going like, I wasn't taking them seriously. Definitely not the unicorn ones, but it's like people are writing about that stuff. But I haven't written one about unicorn.
Oh,
Well,
you need
maybe I
to.
have, but I can't remember right one or
You
not.
need to if you
But
haven't.
I find mermaids more agreeable to my intellect, whatever you want to call that. Uh, so I wanted to write poems about mermaids, and people seem to like the poems of mermaid and mermaid murderers. Basically, that one about the guy that's entranced by the mermaid, and the mermaid's basically going to kill him. But I wanted, like I explained to one of the interviews, that I wanted to write that poem like Edgar Allan Poe was writing about Annabelle Lee, by the sea.
Yeah.
And but I wanted to put as much feeling as I could into a short poem where he did it to a longer poem. But in this case, my love was a mermaid. It wasn't Annabelle Lee, not a human. So, but yeah, mermaloid was simply that they had become like man, but they didn't like it, so they want to return back to the sea. But they had already grown limbs, and so basically they saw off the limbs to go back into the sea and you know de-evolve back to what they were, which is a basically on man for becoming or being what he is, and how other people want to be. It's like people want to come to America and then become what we know as America, and maybe they don't like what that is, unless they can see the way out of not being this all Christian nationalist stuff. Anyways,
Do a reading with you in Corpus, and it makes sense to me that so many of your poems have ocean themes in them, given where you live. Yeah, and I love
yeah,
visiting there. It's always like a really enjoyable experience to get to go visit. So I'm really looking forward to that.
well, there really are
Um,
memories around here too. If you
yeah,
look,
yeah, I'm gonna
the
look.
mermaid. Yeah, we even got
Um,
one that's named Selena.
oh, I love it. I'm gonna
She's
find
right
it.
there next to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But the other thing too that I've been told a lot is, it all sounds great, one, but when you put it in print, it'll never do anything. And I've heard that from the beginning. And I could tell you that I heard it from people who have been doing this longer than I have, which is a little disheartening, right? But this, well, you know what? You're probably right, but I don't read them like you do, and I'm actually out there pushing my stuff by reading it to others to see what they think. So it's not just about an enclosed organization that is going to try to tell people how you should or shouldn't do. That's what sometimes I don't like when you have some of these classes. Like, well, this is the only way you should do it. If I start hearing this is the only way you should do it, that's when I start like, okay, maybe I'll go to another meeting. So
Hmm.
I'll go to another class or
Sure.
something. Not like that professor that's really, really stuck, or that, not that just professor, but the other guy too. Yeah, I assume he's in California. I don't know where he's at. But they actually have a problem with being fixated on form, form,
Hmm.
form, form.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times I read that most of these poets purposely broke those forms to do something new. So, and then that something new became a form. That's the sad part. So, I'm hoping it'll become a form for others. But uh, I'm breaking rules all the time.
Well, you mentioned like going to classes, and I know that you teach yourself. And it's funny because at AWP, it's a big conference for new writers, and we're there, Interstellar Flight Press.
Mhm.
And I was volunteering with SFWA, the Science Fiction Fantasy Writers Association. And we would get students coming up to us and going, "Oh, y'all are the science fiction fantasy people." Like, I found my people. They were so excited, and so yeah, and like they would be excited to see like your book and our books that we have on the table. So like having a physical thing as a poet can really make a difference, to
Mhm.
like that young person who wants to find what they're interested in, and they can have that and take it and read it. And yeah, so like, do you feel like teaching has kind of shaped how you think about your poetry?
Well, I always start off with, look, you can believe me or not believe me. This is the coin. This is the known facts. History is always changing because we always find something new. in history or how things are done. In the history books, the textbooks are political. It's a political story told by whoever paid enough money to make that book. So I tell them that don't always just trust your teachers to tell you the truth. Sometimes there is an agenda involved, and sometimes I'll tell you I cannot tell you, but this is what we teach students today because this is what the state wants you to know in this part. But if you want to do further research, you can find this, and this story, and it's up to you to believe what you want to believe from there. But if you want to get a full version of the whole thing, one of the main going things right now, of course, in Texas history is the Alamo. The fact that the people who are actually in the Alamo are actually fighting for the right to own slaves compared to the Mexicans who already outlawed slaves by 1820. So, but that's not how we get the narrative in schools because the Mexicans are the bad guys. People in the Alamo fighting for independence of Texas. But in fact, it's the truth that they wanted something because at the beginning they had something that looked like a Constitution of the United States of 1787, and they were fighting for the 1824 Constitution of Mexico, which only did two different things that the United States Constitution did. First of all, they had a national religion, which America didn't allow at the time. Second was they had outlawed slavery. And that was a big no-no for the Anglos coming into Texas, wanting to become settlers. And that's the reality of it, because there wasn't a Texas flag being raised in the Alamo. It was a Mexican flag with the numbers 1824 on it, which they wanted a constitution that was similar to the American Constitution, except they wanted slavery. And that's the one story that's not actually being told. And the story is the people inside the Alamo good guys, the people outside the Alamo's bad guys, even though some of them related to each other. So you tell them that I said, well, now it's up to you. What do you want to believe? I mean, because the STAR test is going to tell you this. You got to do this. This is the answer they're going to want. But then you think about it the other way. When you take your teacher's exam in Texas, they give you best case scenario for your scenarios for your teachers. So, you got to go with the best case scenario because the reality is none of that stuff really going to happen in class. None of it is going to be perfect in class. So you kind of look at it that way. So, well, we do it with everything that we do. We get the best case scenario. But again, so you believe what you want to. But my advice to everybody is go out there and find your truth. Maybe you want to believe that. Maybe you don't want to believe that. Maybe when you grow up, you want to be a Republican. Maybe you want to be a Democrat. Maybe you want to not be none of those. You have to find that for yourself. All I can do is try to feed you facts as best as I know. And sometimes even those facts are not actual facts. That's just what we know. So it gets complicated, but we don't give kids or you give your students when you're teaching poetry options and you make it rigid, then you lock them into something. They say, well, this is how this person did it. This is how this person did it. You can do it either way or you can go further. So that's the way I like to teach the classes.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah, it's challenging. Obviously Texas is a challenging place to live and teach.
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, no, I mean, like, my spouse is a teacher, and like there is a current movement right now to like ban entire terminology, in Texas classrooms. And I think that a lot of times art and poetry are like really the only saving grace we have, right? Like, I think
Mm.
giving teens and kids options of like, here's what you can read, and like what I find is that the speculative is often the entry point, right? That's the access point. They're like, oh well, I like Godzilla.
It's
Let
the
me,
gateway. It's the
yeah,
gateway drug.
it's a gateway. We're dragging you in. We're drawing you in with Godzilla, and
Mm.
you're gonna love, and then they learn about other things. So I think, you know, it's interesting to see teachers come up and like talk to us to the press and be like, well, my kids read these things, and I'm like, maybe you should too.
Mm.
you know so yeah, I love that you're doing that. That's great. Yeah.
I often do like this book right here will probably tell you it's a good book, but it's banned. Just know that it's banned. So I tell them, well, these are
Yep.
the books that are banned. You're not allowed to read them. but you can if you want to. So
Just so you know.
just tell them anyways. Yeah, this is a banned book, and this is the name of it. And this is what probably would help you with what you're saying, but I can't tell you to read it. It's up to you. So
Yeah,
I do. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying it that way. And it's not about forming anybody's mind. Didn't we want critical thinking at the beginning? Isn't that what we wanted? So just
sure.
give some deep details, and it's up to them to figure it out.
Yeah, I love it. Uh,
No, I'm not running for office.
no.
So you should run for office. And no, I'm running away from office. I don't do that, right? I would
I
not be
love it.
myself.
Uh, well, thank you for writing the book and for letting us publish it and for being present and always, like engaging and being willing to have the conversation with people because I appreciate that. It's not easy to be that person, and I think you do it lovely. You do it with a lot of grace, so I appreciate that about you. Um,
Thank you.
and I always enjoy getting to hear you read. You have such a lovely reading aesthetic. I love it.
Cool.
And I'll let you get back to your life, but I will see you on Thursday. It's going to be
All
great.
right.
I appreciate getting to publish your book, and it was really fun getting to chat with you.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All
I'll see you
right.
then.
Bye, on.
All right. Good night. Good night.